Hello. Hello, everyone. How nice to see you all. Okay. I'm not in my usual place. I'm in Jerusalem. So I'm not in my usual computer either. So I'm a bit slower than usual. Let's just see if I can get this onto YouTube. You never know your luck. Not sure this is going to work this time. No, it wants me to do all sorts of interesting things I'm not interested in doing. So let's forget that. I'll just record it. Yeah, it's recording and I'll upload it afterwards. Okay, very good. Okay, so everybody, happy Hanukkah. Lovely to see you all.
Thank
Great.
you. Chag Sameach.
Yeah, Chag Sameach, Hanukkah Sameach. So, yeah, like I said, I'm not my usual place, my usual everything. So, I don't have the tefillah with me, for example. So today we're just going to give an affirmation, give a request that our learning should go for Shalema for all the wounded, including the wounded in Australia, and also, and also for Ilui Nishmotam, for those who lost their lives in the attack in Australia. Okay, so we're going to learn today a beautiful article from Rabbi Ashlag, Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag, and it's for Shabbat Chanukah really, because he looks at the Shabbos candle and the Hanukkah candle, and he uses the different candles really to illustrate how Shabbat and Hanukkah actually, what their relationship really is. So let's see if I can share this. Yeah, here we are. Share. Great. Okay. Binyan Ner Hanukkah. All right, now unfortunately, I forgot my glasses in Sfat. It's a bit of a problem. So I printed it out so I can read it from the script. It's a bit easier for me than in the from the screen. But I'll try and keep the screen going for those who want to be able to watch the screen as well. Oh gosh, here we are. More people are coming in. Don't know if it's actually working. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so as for the candle of Hanukkah, the sages said, Chazal Amru, the Masechet Shabbat, in the Masechet Shabbat, V'zel Shonam, Rabba said, Pshitali ner beito v'ner Hanukkah, ner beito adif, mishum shalom beito. Rabba says, it seems to me quite simple, that he's basically discussing the situation that if you've got a poor person, okay, and he's only got enough oil for one candle, which candle should he prefer? Should he prefer to light the Hanukkah candle, or should he prefer to light the Shabbat candle? Okay, this is his situation. He's only got enough money for one candle. Okay, now the Hanukkah candle and the Shabbat candle are very different. The Hanukkah candle is lit outside the house, okay, and we don't use its light, all right. It's lit opposite the mezuzah, okay, whereas the Shabbat candle is lit inside the house, and its light is to give us pleasure. All right, so they're very different in where we light them and the way we use them. Okay, so Rabbi said, if I've only got enough money for one candle, then ner beito adif. Then we have to choose the candle which it gives light inside the house, okay? Mishum Shalom Beito, because that gives Shalom Bait, gives happiness to all the people in the house, and it makes people, gives people that contentment and happiness. Piresh Rashi, Ner Beito v'Ner Chanukah. If we're talking about a candle in his house or a candle for Hanukkah, Ner Beito b'Shabbat, the candle in his house he lights on Shabbat. I think during the week, poor people didn't light a candle. I mean, we have electric lights, and so we light the Shabbat candle, and we don't realize what a blessing it is, because poor people in the old days, they didn't have money for candles at all. So as soon as it got dark, they went to bed, okay, and they got up in the morning, and when it was light, and that was it. And so the Shabbat candle, it was a special thing. It really gave light on Shabbat. That was a blessing, okay? He's a poor person who doesn't got enough money to buy enough oil for 2 candles. Shalom Beito. He needs to put as his priority a candle which will be lit inside his house. Zo hadlakat ner b'Shabbat. This is lighting the candle on Shabbat. Shebnei Beito mitzta'arin le'shev b'choshech. Because his household, the people of his household, will feel very miserable if they have to sit in the dark. Okay? Now, let's see if I can get this to scroll down a wee bit. Yes. Aval ner Chanukah eino l'shlom beito. But the Hanukkah candle is not for the household. Ki asur l'shtamesh le'oro, because it's forbidden for us to actually use its light. Kamo shekatuv aha hadlakat hanerot. After we've lit the candles, we say hanerot halalu kodesh heim. These candles are holy. Ve'ein lanu reshut lishtamesh bahem. We have no permission to use them. Ele lirotam bilvad, but only to see them. V'yesh lishol sheila. We need to ask a question. Aleph. הוא נותן טעם למה נר שבת קודם לנר חנוכה, משום שלום בית. The Gemara gives a reason why the Shabbat candle takes precedence over the Hanukkah candle, because it gives happiness and peace in the house. דבר זה דורש הסבר, but Rabbi Ashlag feels this needs an explanation. וכי זוהי סיבת מספקת levatel mitzvat ner Chanukah? Is that a sufficient reason to nullify the mitzvah of lighting the candle on Hanukkah? She kol kach hashuva mechamat kedusha shebahem, because it's such an important mitzvah, because they are so holy. Ad kedei kach chazal she'asur lishtamesh la'oram, to the extent that the sages forbade us to use their light. Kamo she'anachnu omrim, as we say, hanerot halalu kodesh heim. These candles are holy. Ve'ein lanu reshut lishtamesh bahem, and we don't have permission to use them. Ele lirotam bilvad, only to see them. Umitam shalom bayit shu inyan gashmi, and for the sake of, the physical pleasure of sitting in a lighted house, which is a physical pleasure, mevatlin et hamitzvah hazot, should we not carry out this important mitzvah? Bet, bichlal tzrichim lahavin, and in general we need to understand ma'u hakesher bein ner Shabbat l'shalom bayit. What's the connection between the Shabbat candle and the Shalom Bayit, happiness in the home? Shalom dimze mi pasuk, which we learn from the verse, v'tiznach mi shalom nafshi. Should I abandon the welfare of my soul? Zo hadlakat haner b'Shabbat. This refers to the Shabbos candle. Okay, so ובכדי להבין את הנ"ל, so in order to understand these questions, צריכים קודם לבאר את השלושה עניינים האלו. First of all, we need to explain these three matters. מהי שבת? מהו שלום בית? מהו חנוכה? What is Shabbat? What is Shalom Bayit? Peace in the house. ומהו Chanukah? What is Chanukah? הנה Shabbat אמרו חז"ל שימאין עולם הבא. The sages teach us that Shabbat is of the essence of the world to come. כמו שאומרים, as we say in the Tefillah Arvit, in the evening prayer on Shabbat, אתה קידשת את יום השביעי לשמך. Tachlit maseh shamayim va'aretz. You sanctified the seventh day for your name, the ultimate purpose of the creation of the heaven and the earth. Shinyan tachlit, the ultimate purpose means shehu hamatara. This is the purpose. Shebishvila niva'u hashamayim va'aretz, for which the heaven and the earth were created. וידוע שעניין מטרת הבריאה היא להיטיב לנבראיו, and it's known that the issue of the purpose of creation is to give goodness to all created beings. שפירושו שהנבראים יקבלו טוב ועונג, that God wants that the created beings, all of us, should receive only good and joy. וזה נקרא תכלית הבריאה, and this is designated as the ultimate purpose of creation. ומה יש לנו לפני התכלית? And what do we have before we get to that ultimate purpose? זמן עבודה. We have the time of work. ולפי הנ"ל מתעוררת השאלה, and according to what we've asked above, the question arises, אם המטרה היא להיטיב, if the purpose of God's creation is to give goodness to the created beings, עבודה זו למה לי? Why do I need to do all this work? אלא התירוץ ידוע, but the answer is well known. כי בכדי שלא תהיה בחינת נחמה דכסופה, so that we should not eat what's called the bread of shame. ניתנה לנו עבודה מבחינת תיקון הבריאה, is given to us the work which is designated as the tikkun, the correction of creation. From God's perspective, of course he could have just given us all the goodness and joy that he wants to give us. From God's perspective, there's no problem whatsoever. And indeed, in the consciousness which we call the Ein Sof, the created being does receive all goodness and joy. And in one part of ourselves, probably the most important part of ourselves, we are already there in the Ein Sof, receiving all the ultimate good and joy that God could want to give us, because he said it, he who amar v'yehi, he said it and it's finished. But from our perspective, we are given the opportunity to earn the reward. Okay, now why is that? He says that we shouldn't suffer from the bread of shame. When I first heard this idea, I said, I don't mind being a bit ashamed. I'd rather that than doing all this work. But I've come to understand it a little bit better since then. If we're just passive receivers, it doesn't feel comfortable. The rabbis gave a beautiful parable on this idea. He said, imagine that you're in a marketplace, and in the marketplace there's a poor person, okay, and a rich man comes to the marketplace. He sees the poor person, and he goes up to him and he says, what can I do for you? What do you need? And of course, at the beginning, the poor person is delighted to receive all that he needs. He wants, he needs his rent, he needs some food, he needs whatever it is he needs, he wants, and the rich man gives and gives and gives and gives and gives and gives and gives until the poor person, at the beginning, it felt good to have his, most immediate needs met. But after that, he begins to feel uncomfortable. And ultimately, what he really wants is he wants to be able to give like the rich man. He wants to be an active giver. He doesn't want to be a passive receiver. And so the purpose of being given this work to do is actually a benefit for us, so that we will be able to receive all the goodness and joy that God wants to give us, not because we need to labor for God, but because for our benefit, that way we will become active partners and know that we've earned, to some extent, the reward, okay? But it's the opportunity to become an active partner rather than a passive receiver. And that's the point of the tikkun habriya, the correction of creation. Okay? All right, now, let's see if I can scroll this down a bit. There we are. וידוע שעניין מטרת הבריאה היא להיטיב לנבראיו. And it's known, oh no, wait a minute, sorry, I missed the place. Right, פירוש. Sorry, all the way down to where it says פירוש. שעל ידי התיקון הזה, through this תיקון, נוכל לקבל את הטוב והעונג. We will be able to receive all the joy and goodness. כי כבר תהיה לנו בחינת השתוות הצורה על הבורא. Because we will already have affinity form with the Creator. What does that mean? It means that just as God is giving to us unconditionally, we will also be giving unconditionally, either to God or to our fellow human beings. We will have the same midah, the same attribute of giving unconditionally. Okay? And that brings us into an affinity form with the Creator, having this similar desire. מבחינה זו שהנבראים רוצים להשפיע לבורא, from the aspect that the created beings want to give to the Creator, כמו שהבורא רוצה להשפיע לנבראים, in exactly the same way that the Creator wants to give to us. נמצא בזה שאדם עובד בעל מנת להשפיע, כבר אין מקום לנחמה דכסופה. And since a person is now working and giving only for the sake of giving, there is no place any longer for him to feel any shame. ולפי זה יוצא, and so therefore it comes forth, שעניין העבודה שניתנה לנו, that the issue of the work which is given to us, היא נאמרה תיקון הבריאה, refers to the correction of creation, ולא על המטרה, and not on the purpose. כי המטרה היא ליהנות, because the purpose signifies the enjoyment that we will receive. ולא לעבוד, and it doesn't signify the work. The work is actually the aspect of the tikkun, of the correction of creation, and not the aspect of the work. Okay? Okay, right. Next page. ומה שאנו צריכים לתיקון אין הכוונה לתענוג, כי זה נותן הבורא מצד המטרה. And that we need to do this tikkun, it's got no, it doesn't mean anything about the joy, because the joy is what the Creator gives us, because that's his purpose. אלא בכדי שלהטוב והעונג שנקבל תהיה שלמות. But in order that the goodness that we will receive and the joy we will receive will be totally whole, והשלמות היא שנוכל לקבל את הטוב, ולא להגיש אי נעימות, like we said earlier. And the goodness and the wholeness is that we'll be able to receive that joy and that goodness without feeling any uncomfortableness or any embarrassment or anything like that. This is the whole purpose of the work. כעבודה היא בזה שאנו צריכים להחליף את הכלים שלנו, שקיבלנו מצד הטבע, and the work consists of the fact that we actually need to exchange our desires that we received from our basic nature, which are the desires to receive the goodness and joy, okay? ולהשיג כלים אחרים, and instead of which to say, before I use my desires of receiving good and joy, I need first of all to get other desires, and these are desires of giving unconditionally. ובזמן שמקבלים את הטוב והעונג בכלים דהשפעה, and when we will receive the good and the joy, not with our desires to receive only for the sake of receiving, but only we'll receive it only for the sake of giving to God or to others, then there's no more place to feel in any way uncomfortable or embarrassed when we receive the bounty because we've worked for it. On the contrary, we're receiving it. We actually, the Holy Ari says, we convert the vessel into a infinite channel. Okay, hafoch ratzon, take the desire to receive, you change it around and it becomes a tzinor, an infinite channel of goodness. So you can see how that work that we do really does convert, a vessel, it's called the vessel to receive, is a finite thing. It's got a certain capacity. That's a physical vessel, but we can also learn from that to a spiritual vessel. Our desires to receive are finite, okay? But an infinite channel of goodness is absolutely infinite, okay? והנה שתי הבחינות שביארנו בעניין מטרת הבריאה, שתגיע לשלמותה. So now we've looked at two aspects regarding the purpose of creation to enable it to reach its perfection. מוסברות לנו בשני מצבים, are now explained to us in two states. One, הסדר של תיקון הבריאה, שאנחנו עובדים בתורה מצוות על מנת להשפיע. The first aspect is the time of the correction of our basic nature, which is called the correction of creation. And in this, we need to work with Torah and mitzvot and learn through the Torah and mitzvot how to come to give unconditionally. ונבחן שאנחנו משתמשים בכלים להשפעה. And during this time, our emphasis is on how to give, that is, to use the desires of giving. זאת אומרת, היות שיש מעשים ויש כוונות, and there are deeds and there are intentions, okay? ולכן במצב הראשון, אנו משתמשים במעשים להשפיע, שהם בחינת תורה ומצוות. So during the first state, we use actions of giving, which are the aspects of Torah and mitzvot, and these actions are designated that a person does them to learn mahu rachum afata rachum, so that we become merciful just as God is merciful. So let's just think for a minute what an example of an action which is already giving, which we can intend how to give. So the answer would be, for example, let's say we're going to give tzedakah, okay? Tzedakah is an action where we're already giving, and you can do it for different reasons. People can do tzedakah so that other people think, what lovely people they are or something, okay? That would be giving for the sake of receiving. Or we can be doing tzedakah for giving for the sake of giving. all right, that I really want to give to the other one, okay? So you've got the action is in any case a giving action, and the intention, we need to work on it so that our intention is in line with the action, and it's not because of what I want to get from the action, but it's what I want to give, okay? So the action, which is in any case a giving one, is easier to intend for the sake of giving. Whereas an action which is a receiving action, like for example, we all like to get appreciation, we all like to get honor. Let's say somebody wants to give us some honor or something. That's harder. It's harder to intend a receiving aspect to be action to for the sake of giving. Okay? So that's what he wants to talk about here. All right, so where it says the letter Aleph, here we are. Anu mishtamshim b'ma'asim de lashpia. We use the actions of giving, which are the aspect of Torah and mitzvot, that these actions are designated that a person practices Torah and mitzvot from the sense of just as God is merciful, so we need to be merciful too. In other words, we need to be giving just as the Creator is giving. Okay? ולכן אם הוא עושה מעשים כדוגמת הבורא, so if we're doing actions just like the Creator is doing and walking in his ways, okay, if we are doing it in order to get a reward, okay, then the intention is not for the sake of giving. But if we're doing it in order just so we could be in affinity of form, then we will be doing it for the sake of giving. Now, as I said earlier, it's not easy to work on the intention. All right, the intention because our basic nature is one of, let's see if I can scroll this down, because our basic nature is one of receiving. Okay, so to work on the intention of giving is actually difficult. ומשום זה יש עבודה רבה אם האדם רוצה לעשות מעשה של נתינה. There is a lot of work to do if we want to be able to do an action which is purely giving. והסיבה שמחייבתו לעסוק בנתינה היא, and the reason that obliges us to practice giving, שיש לו סיבה גורם לו לתת ולא לקבל, is that we need to have a reason why we want to be giving and not receiving. דהיינו, סדר העולם הוא, אם אדם אחד אוהב את חברו, מתעורר בליבו רצון לתת לאהוב, כי בזה הוא מבטא את האהבה שלו אליו. So, the way of the world is, if a person loves somebody, loves his friend, awakens in his heart a desire to give to the beloved, because in that way he expresses his love to him. Or l'adam chashuv, or for example, to an important person. Oh, sorry, I forgot to scroll this up a bit. There we are. There we go. Okay. Or if he wants to give to an important person, all right, somebody who he values, somebody who he looks up to, okay, that also awakens in his heart to manifest, to reveal the love that he has by giving him something, by giving him a present. And in this way, his mouth and his heart are the same. The words he's saying and what he's feeling in his heart are equivalent. And that's the same thing that we talked about earlier, that the action and the intention need to be going in the same direction. And not that we've got the action is a giving action, but in his heart he actually wants to receive something. Like, for example, if you're giving to a beggar, but what you're really intending is everybody should think what a good person you are, or something like that. Okay? Like, I mean, it's quite common, you know, people give money to hospitals on condition that they have, you know, the name is all up in gold on the outside. Now, I'm not saying there's anything, you know, wrong with that in the ultimate, in the sense that the hospital still gets built, okay, from that perspective, that's fine. But if we want to be looking at how we're going to do the tikkun of creation, how we're going to become givers like God is giving, then that is not the way we wish to go. What we need to do is actually use actions of giving to work with the intentions of giving, because they're easier to work on when the action is a giving one than when the action is a receiving one. Okay? So when we've got the action and the intention both going in the same direction, both of giving, okay, this is called, the intention is of giving, this is called for its own sake. It's called Torah Lishma, doing Torah for its own sake. Okay. Now how do I get this to go down again? There we are. So that's the aspect of the giving actions and the actions of giving and the intentions of giving. Right. Matzaf Sheni, the second aspect, Shu Matrat Bria, which is the purpose of creation, Musbar Lanu, is explained to us, she'az anu yocholim lishtamesh bekli Kabbalah, that we're now able to use vessels of receiving. Zot omet she'anachnu oskim bekabbalat tanugim, and here we're actually dealing with receiving joy. Aval hasiba she'anu rotzim lekabel tanugim, but the reason why we want to receive the joy, hu lo mitam lemalot et ratzonenu she'anu mishtokakim letanugim, is not to fill up ourselves and our desires that because we're longing for pleasures. El sheyesh kan siba acheret legamrei, and this is the completely opposite reason, okay, a totally different reason, shehafucha me'amaseh shelanu, which is in the opposite of the action, okay? Like we said earlier, this is actually more difficult. Since we want to be giving to the Creator, and we've already done a tikkun on our wills to receive for ourselves alone, we're focused on how we can give, so we don't want to receive anything into our own wills to receive, okay? Because we know already that that's going to cause a separation from the Creator. But we really want to give to the Creator. What can we possibly give to Him so that He could take pleasure in it? There's only one thing, that we can possibly say. Since He created the creation in order to give goodness to the created beings. We know that He's completely full, He's completely whole. There's nothing really we can give Him. But there's one thing, and that's the sages tell us, that He created the creation in order to give goodness to the created beings. So, therefore, if we want to receive the good and the joy, because we want to help the Creator fulfill His purpose, then in fact, that's giving to Him. That would be called receiving for the sake of giving. Okay? So there you have the action of receiving the joy and the pleasure with the intention of giving. And like I said earlier, that's a different level and it's much more difficult, in fact. Okay. ועתה נוכל לפרש את השאלה מהו חנוכה. So now that we've explained all this, we can answer the question about what is Hanukkah. לפי מה שהסברנו את מצב הראשון, according to what we explained regarding the first state, שהוא עבודת תיקון הבריאה, which is the work of just working on giving, okay, and getting the giving actions right, okay, for the sake of giving, all right, שהוא בכדי להשיג את הכלים להשפעה, which is the work that we do on our desires of giving. So like I said earlier, we work first on actions of giving and use those to work on the intention for the sake of giving, because that's definitely easier. Okay? So those are called giving for the sake of giving. שמהם יכולים להגיע אחר כך למטרת הבריאה. Once we've got those settled, then subsequently we can work on vessels of receiving for the sake of giving, which are called the purpose of creation. So the vessels of giving for the sake of giving, we can call by the name of spirituality, ruchaniut. Because what does spirituality mean? כי אדם לא רוצה לעשות שום מעשה עבור עצמו, אלא הכל לשם שמיים. He's not doing anything for himself, okay? Both his action and his intention is only for the sake of giving. It's only for the sake of God. It's only for the sake of giving to God. כמו שהמוזל, as the sages said, olah. We're talking about a burnt offering. Hainu korban olah. This would be like a sacrifice, which would be a burnt offering. Kula Lashem. All of it would be burnt up completely. All of it is given entirely to God. Hakol ruchani. It's entirely spiritual. והנה הנס של חנוכה היה על עניין רוחניות. And as we know that this miracle of Hanukkah was entirely a miracle of spirituality. All right? כמו שאנו אומרים ועל הניסים, as we say in על הניסים, כשעמדה מלכות יוון הראשונה על עמך ישראל, when the wicked kingdom of Greece stood over your people Israel, להשכיחם תורתך, to make them forget your Torah, ולהעבירם מחוקי רצונך, and take them away from the laws of your will. ואתה בחמך הרבים, and you in your great mercy, עמדת להם בעת צרתם, you stood by them in their time of trouble. As we know, the Greeks, when they fought the Jews, the problem that the Greeks felt wasn't the existence of the Jews, it was the practice of the Torah and mitzvot. They wanted to take away the basis of Torah and mitzvot. Okay, it was a kind of they fought us on the religion. They didn't mind us if we were still, alive, but we had to follow their religion, not our religion. Okay, so the battle against the Greeks was a battle of spirituality. ולפי שהסברנו, and what we've explained, יוצא שרוחניות נקראת שמשתמשים בכלים להשפעה. So again, the inner battle with our inner Greek is a battle for giving, a battle for, wait a minute, sorry. Oh, okay. It just said my battery was running. I didn't realize I hadn't closed it. Okay, that should be all right. Okay, all right. So the battle is one of giving, learning how to give. All right. So as we explained, the spirituality means using the vessels of giving. ועניין שליטת היוונים מתבטא, and the governance of the Greeks within us explained, שלא נתנו לעשות שום דבר שייך לכלים להשפעה. So both historically and within ourselves, the issues of the Greeks means that the inner Greek within us doesn't want to let us do anything which belongs to the desires of giving. ושם הייתה גם שליטה על מעשי התורה המצוות. And they also tried to have governance over Torah and mitzvot. וזה היה בחיצוניות. That was in history on the external side. But בפנימיות המחשבה, and in the inner, I do apologize, everybody. I thought it was plugged in, but it obviously wasn't. Okay, one learns by one's mistakes. So here we have, all right, the inner Greek, okay, who wants to stop us actually being able to do our work for the sake of giving. All right?
We need to see your paper on our screen. We've only
thank
got
you.
your face, I think.
Thank you, sorry, thank you. Okay. Right, you're right. Oh, gosh. There we are. So do share. Oh, right, share. Oh, why won't it do share? It has to do what I tell it. Oh, right, now do share. Okay, good. Perfect. Thank you. All right, there you go. All right.
Okay.
All right, so we were looking at the Okay, everybody, sorry about that. A technical hitch and all that. So we've got the external Greeks who don't want us to do Torah and mitzvot, and the inner Greeks who don't want us to do any action which will be totally giving entirely. Okay? Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to do Torah and mitzvot, which is in a way which is totally giving, and I can see why it's so difficult, because it's so difficult to get rid of that last aspect of desire to receive. And in fact, the truth is, without God's help, we can't. All right, we need God's help to help us actually come to true giving. And the reason is because our basic nature that we're created with is a will to receive pleasure and joy. So to let go of that, put all that aside, and to actually want to be able to truly give is actually beyond our capability without the help of God. Okay? So what is the inner Greek? The inner Greek doesn't allow us to give only for the sake of heaven, but the inner Greek wanted, here we are, okay, that the people of Israel should be sunk in our selfish love, and in this way are separated from the Creator. And all the thoughts of the Sitra Achra, the other side, the will to receive for ourselves alone, is only to try to separate us from God. Okay, and this happens when we are receiving for ourselves alone and not giving as the Creator is giving. And my father of blessed memory, there we go, said in connection to this, why did the sages ask, my Chanukah, what is Chanukah? And the answer is, Chanu B'ka. They encamped on the 25th. And the intention is, of course, the 25th of Kislev. But the 25th of Kislev is not the end of the war. It's like a parking space. It's like, an intermediate breather. It's like a respite, all right? But it's not the end of the whole war, all right? So it's like, he said, when the army need to go out and make a new attack, they need, first of all, to gather their strength and to rest a bit and to get new forces and to polish up their equipment and all that of it, so that they will then be able to continue the war. And he said, since the army received an order not to progress into enemy territory, but to get a rest, so some people think that's because they finished the whole battle, they finished the whole war, and there's no more need to overcome the enemy. We see accordingly that the issue of Hanukkah is not the ultimate, because the ultimate would be the Shabbat, would be the ultimate purpose of creation. We haven't got there yet, but it is the aspect of the tikkun of creation. It is the aspect which helps us get to Shabbat. Okay? It's the tikkun of creation. It celebrates the transformation of the vessels for the sake of giving. Okay? That in this way we correct the vessels of giving, the kelim d'hashpa'ah. Sheperusham hu masim shel hashpa'ah, which means actually doing actions of giving, okay? And intending them for the sake of giving. And because of this, when we're talking about the Hanukkah candle, asur l'shtamesh l'oram shel neirot Hanukkah. That's why we're forbidden to use the lights of the Hanukkah candles for our own purposes. Because if we were to enjoy their light, we would actually be receiving. But in fact, the miracle what we celebrate Hanukkah for is that we are able to do actions which are purely giving. Okay? And that is really a miracle. Because as I said before, it's very difficult to get rid of that last subtle element of our will to receive for ourselves alone. And to be able to do even an action which is in any case giving, but truly for the sake of giving, which is called for its own sake, is really a miracle. And this is what it means to get out of the governance of the Greeks. And they were able to go in faith above knowledge. The Greeks wanted knowledge. They wanted to receive knowledge. But the way of the Jew is to go above knowledge, to use the action of faith, which is a higher level, which is a giving level. Okay? And the klipat of the Ivanim and the desire of the Greeks, okay? And I think it was a great temptation. And I think it still is. I mean, at the time of the Greeks, you've got this fascinating new technology way of looking at the world, using one's logic, using one's intellect. Okay, it feels so much more solid in a way. Okay, and that was the way of the Greeks. All right, and you can see to this day that it brings technology and advances and all sorts of things. It doesn't necessarily make a more stable world or a happier world, but it's got its side to it, and you see why it's a temptation. Okay. And in the inner world of us, we obviously prefer, from our basic nature, where we can understand and when we can plan and when feel we're in control and we can make rational decisions and based on logic, all right? Whereas to walk in faith means to be giving. We have to give faith, and that's why faith is so difficult. On the other hand, faith brings us into affinity of form with the Creator in a way that receiving logic and rationality doesn't. Okay? So from what we have expressed, what we have explained, oh no, that's the page. This is one of those shiurim. Okay. See if I can get it back again. Maybe it was over here. Oh, there it was. There you go. A miracle. Down there. There we are. Ulfi ma shesbarnu, and from what we have explained, Yotzei Shener Hanukkah. So we have see that the candle of Hanukkah, Hagam Shu Merames on Nes Ruchani, though it hints at the spiritual nature of the miracle, that the people of Israel came forth into freedom from the governance of the Greeks. But that's only half the story. Because what we've done so far, and it's a good half, I'm not knocking it in any way, but we've only dealt so far with the vessels of giving, which are rectified through the miracle of Hanukkah. And that's called the tikkun of Bria, the correction of creation. But we've still got to deal with the vessels of receiving, that they also should go for the sake of giving, and that's called the purpose of creation. Masha enken Shabbat. So here we're talking about Shabbat. Shume'enu lamaba, which is the issue of the next world. Bubachinat tachlit shamayim va'aretz. They are the purpose of the heaven and earth. And when I say Olam Haba is the next world, I don't mean we have to die to get there, okay? It means the next real state. Or Me'ein Olam Haba, the aspect in the sense of the Garden of Eden, all right? But we can be alive during it, okay? It's the next spiritual stage, the aspect of the completion of heaven and earth. Shunikra Matarata Bria, which is the absolute purpose of creation. And this will be manifest at the end of the tikkun. This is what shines on Shabbat, okay, where we can receive, not only give, but also receive for the sake of giving all the joy and goodness that God wants to give us. The Shabbat is the time of receiving the joy. So we're not only we receive for the sake of giving, but we're using our vessels of receiving in the right way, which brings us into affinitive form with the Creator. And everybody, nobody will be left out of this. All of us are destined to arrive at the complete redemption, at the complete perfection, in which all of us will be able to receive all that God wants to give us only for the sake of giving. Okay, how are we doing for time? Let me just see. Really amazing. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Absolutely. Very special.
Can I ask a question just to repeat
Absolutely.
that last piece that you said about Hanukkah versus Shabbos? Like the Hanukkah, I love the idea of the Hanukkah that we're not allowed to use the light, that it's our tikkun for, not for giving without.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to understand the Shabbos tikkun. I didn't get that last piece that you said.
You're right. I didn't spend so much time on that. Let me see. What he says here, it comes from, he brings a piece from the aspect of Noah. Okay, that Noah had to go into the ark. Now, why did he bring that? I've forgotten. Oh yes, B'chochma Yifne Bayit. Okay, in the Parsha of Noah, he teaches that the aspect of wisdom, the light of God, okay, needs a bayit, needs a home, okay, in order for it needs a vessel, it needs to be received, okay. Now we learned that if we receive for the sake of receiving, it's darkness, it's separation from the Creator. But when we receive for the sake of giving, then that light is able to be present in the home, in the vessel, okay, whether we're talking about our own inner vessel or whether we're talking about the home, because we're receiving for the sake of giving. And receiving for the sake of giving is the same as giving, okay? So if the action is receiving, but the intention is giving, it counts as pure giving. So the Shabbos candle, which lights up in the home, is the symbol of the end of the tikkun, which is not just giving for the sake of giving, but it's also receiving for the sake of giving. So it's like not just ruchaniot, but also gashmiot as well. So the end of the tikkun brings love and peace and beauty to us in our consciousness as we are, in our bodies as we are as well. So it's goodness also to the body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow, very beautiful. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Okay, have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos and wonderful Yom Tov.
You too.
Okay.
Hanukkah. I look forward to the recording. Thank you.
Amen. Okay, bye then.
Thank you. I put the molad into the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. All right. Bye then.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Bye.